Hello, and welcome to today's training industry webinar, Rallying for Resilience, Developing Hardy Teams, sponsored by MHS Assessments. I'm Amanda Longo, Creative Marketing Director here at Training Industry, and I'm really happy you could join us for today's event. Before we get started, a few tips and tricks to help you interact with our speaker and get the most out of our program. Of course, you can pop open your chat pod at any time, leave it open, chat with other attendees, chat with me or our speaker. Pop open the Q&A window to ask questions. We will have an official Q&A section at the end of our program, and we'll be answering those questions then. Of course, we always encourage you to share the information you receive on our events with your colleagues and network via social media. Please follow at MHS_talent and hashtag TIWebinar so we're able to track your contribution to the conversation. When our program ends, you'll notice that a new tab has popped up in the browser you're using with a short evaluation survey. We greatly welcome your feedback about today's content, speaker, or topics you might want to see here in the future. As always, today's event will be recorded and archived on trainingindustry.com, and you will receive a follow-up email from us that will include a link to the on-demand program and a PDF of today's slide deck. If this is your first event with us, a very special welcome goes out to you. At Training Industry, we offer dozens of webinars each year on subjects ranging from technical training and product demos to modern learning systems, authenticity, learner preferences. I mean, we cover just about every topic relevant to leaders of training organizations around the globe. If you've attended one of our programs in the past, thanks so much for joining us once again. Our objective in offering sponsored webinar events is to allow our subscribers the opportunity to learn from the most innovative thought leaders in our industry. I know today's program is one that you'll find to be most useful because we will highlight how you can build and develop teams that are better able to adapt to stress and adversity and are less likely to suffer from burnout and are more resilient to change. That sounds awesome. All right. Our sponsor today is MHS Assessments, a leading publisher of scientifically validated assessments for more than 30 years. Multi-Health Systems, Inc. serves clients in educational, clinical, corporate, public safety, government, military, pharmaceutical, and research settings. MHS has grown to become an international company with products sold in more than 75 countries and translated in over 50 languages. With offices in North America and partners around the world, MHS is dedicated to strong product growth and optimal user experience and being digitally and globally driven. Now, to take us on our journey today, I'd like to introduce you to our awesome speaker. Tanya is a chartered psychologist and a member of the Division of Work and Organizational Psychology and Coaching Psychology Group within the Psychology Society of Ireland and a member of the European Mentoring and Coaching Council. As an accredited coach, certified trainer, and facilitator, she works in the public and private sector across a variety of industries, delivering individual coaching, leadership, and team development programs. Tanya has guest lectured for the MBA program at the National College of Ireland and the Organizational Change and Development Diploma program at the Irish Management Institute. She has a Master's of Science in Work and Organizational Psychology from the University of Limerick, an Advanced Diploma in Personal Leadership and Executive Coaching, a Solution-Focused Business Professional Certification from the University of Milwaukee, and British Psychological Society certificates in Occupational Testing, Test Your User Ability, and Test User Personality. I don't think we could have any more accredited person who's here talking to you today. Without any further ado, Tanya, the microphone is yours.
Thank you, Amanda, for that super introduction. And welcome again to everybody. Good morning or good afternoon, good evening to each of you, depending on where you are in the world. I echo Amanda saying they're super excited to have people from so far and wide, and especially somebody flying through the skies as you're with us. That's commitment, and I hope you enjoy it. So thank you all for tuning in and for taking time out of your busy schedules to be here with us. So today, as Amanda mentioned, we're going to explore the subject of resilience and what it means and how we can build it in teams in modern organizations. So just a little bit more, as Amanda mentioned, I'm a business psychologist with a company called Kinch Lyons. We're based in Ireland in the UK, but we work internationally. And in a nutshell, we're in the business of transforming how people experience work for the better. We specialize in executive coaching, team coaching, leadership development, team development, organizational development. And in practice, really what we do is we use tools such as psychometric assessments or business simulations, and we use that knowledge or that learning experience to have meaningful conversations and bring about meaningful change for our clients. We're one of the international partners with MHS. We're master trainers in the EQI 2.0 measure of emotional intelligence, the Mesquite Pearman Personality Integrator, the Hardiness Resilience Gauge, which we'll be talking about today, and along with a variety of other psychometrics and tools for leadership development and leadership skills. We're a team of chartered psychologists, and part of our practice, what we practice, is positive psychology, the scientific study of human flourishing. So traditionally, psychology has been associated with focusing on dysfunction and how to treat it and how to fix us, for want of a better word. But positive psychology, by contrast, is really all about exploring how ordinary people can become happier, can become more fulfilled, and in turn deliver a better performance in the workplace too. It's all about identifying and practicing behaviors that somebody can engage in to improve their own performance and their well-being. And we'll see some of these in action today, as I want to help you learn more about resilience in this webinar, but I also want to include a practical element so that you can begin to develop it in yourselves and also perhaps hopefully in the people around you, whether it's your colleagues or your teams. So where possible for each of you, I'd encourage you to grab a pen and paper or a phone or a Word document or a tablet, whatever you're most comfortable taking notes on, because we're going to use it a little later on in the presentation. So on to today's webinar. We'll be talking about resilience and how it can be used to build and develop teams. Resilience is a great buzzword at the moment, but it's really, there's so much more to it than that. So what I'd like to do, first of all, we'll just talk a little bit about what it means to each of us. Okay, so for today's webinar, we're firstly going to talk a little bit about what do we mean by resilience. Okay, it will have a different meaning for each of us, so we'll just clarify our understanding and agree on a definition before we carry on with that. And we look at why it's important, not just for ourselves as individuals, but also why it's important for teams and organizations. Then we'll be looking into 3 specific elements of resilience: challenge, control, and commitment. We'll do a deep dive into each of those. We'll looking at each one of them, what it means and how it can be developed. Again, developed for ourselves as individuals, but also for the teams we work with and the organizations that we work in. Okay, just to ask you guys now, I'm going to turn it over to you. What do you think of when you hear the word resilience? So if you write in the chat box there, and Amanda, we'll have a look then at some of the different interpretations that come in from everybody.
Yes, so pop open your chat window now, probably still open from when we were doing our shout outs, and let us know. All right, Carrie says model behavior, perseverance. I'm seeing a lot of ability to overcome challenges or adversity. Emotional robustness, pushing through, grit, dealing with setbacks, having a backup plan, bearing up under pressure, bouncing forward, I like that one, overcoming challenges, managing stress in healthy ways, riding the wave with grace, thriving through adversity, controlling how we react to challenges.
Super.
Soliciting others, regrouping, not taking things too personally, flexible and open, a growth mindset, owning my attitude, cognitive and behavioral strategies to cope, adaptability, staying power.
Super, there's some really good offerings there. Thanks for that, Amanda.
Sure.
And some of those we'll definitely touch on later on during the webinar. around growth mindset, modeling behavior, and that. I think my own personal favorites there might have also been that bouncing forward and riding the wave with grace. They're two goodies. These are some of the words that people tend to associate with resilience, and some of which you've mentioned there in the chat box yourselves. So positive attitude, persistence, determination, strength, flexibility, adaptability, tenacity, durability, and stamina. Different words, but common themes running through them, and common themes running through some of the things that you guys have brought in here as well. A lot of it around a perseverance or a desire to see things through to the end, and a lot around agility or flexibility, being able to adapt. The definition that we're going to use today that's associated with the research behind the Hardiness Resilience Gauge is the ability to recover quickly from adversity and stressful situations. So it's acknowledging a presence of difficult circumstances, but it's really about the ability to deal with that. And it's that ability that we're going to look at in more detail today. So why resilience? Maybe it's an obvious question. Maybe it's obvious why it's important. But when we look into the reasons why it's important, I think we can really realize the depth and the scope of this skill. In terms of individuals, first of all, resilient individuals have fewer work, life, and interpersonal stressors. They have more adaptive coping skills. They display flexibility and adaptability in most situations. More life satisfaction, more scope for personal growth, engagement, and happiness. They perform better when they're faced with stress, and they're more effective leaders. So really, it spans everything, all areas of life. And then not just for us as individuals, but also for teams and organizations. And looking at the people within organizations, employees with resilience are more satisfied in their jobs. They experience less professional burnout. There's less time and days taken off due to stress-related illnesses. And they can have a strong sense of meaning in their work, of pride in their work, and can be more dedicated to their work, and have better relationships with their co-workers, with their leaders, with their direct reports, and can be quite active socially within their organization. So going beyond that day-to-day work, they want to be involved in the organization, they want to contribute. And they can be more willing to assume additional responsibilities in the workplace. So both from an individual perspective there, and from the perspective of teams and organizations, this is, I'm biased towards it of course, but an amazing, almost limitless skill in what it can do for us as people, as workers, as leaders. So while it's really, really vital to acknowledge the relevance of resilience, it's really also important that organizations are deliberate, whether it's about creating awareness about this skill, measuring it, building it. But a resilient culture in your organization, it's not something that's going to happen by accident. It's designed intentionally. So we're going to look at hopefully a deeper understanding of resilience today, and a tool that can help organizations, that can be used in that way to do those things, to create awareness, measure, and build a skill. Okay, so in looking at resilience and hardiness, we're going to be looking at the three components I mentioned: challenge, control, and commitment. And when these three pieces work together, they're a combination of qualities that are found in people who stay healthy and continue to perform in life and in work despite experiencing stress or difficult conditions. These are the three areas that are measured in the Hardiness Resilience Gauge, a great psychometric for assessing resilience and hardiness. So let's have a look at each one of them in detail. Firstly, we'll have a look at what each one of them means and how we can develop it in ourselves and in others. And then we'll talk a little bit more about the hardiness tool itself. So the first one we're going to look at here is commitment. So all about being engaged, seeing all parts of your life as interesting and meaningful. So really, it's the extent to which somebody is engaged in a variety of life domains and how interesting and meaningful that they see their existence. People who are strong in commitment here have a strong sense of purpose in life. They know what they want out of their life, and they tend to see their experience, whether big or small, as meaningful and important. And they tend to be engaged with everything that's going on around them, and with the people that they're around. That's the definition of it here. So let's have a little bit of a look like what it might look like in action. And as we're talking about what these look like in action, I'd really like you guys to think, can you recognize this? Maybe in yourself or in anybody that you work with or anybody close to you, just to help you get a better understanding even again of what these play out, how these play out in day-to-day life. Okay, so for commitment, somebody who is low in commitment may not have a strong sense of purpose. Okay, not necessarily know what they want to get out of life or what they want to get out of their role in an organization. They mightn't be overly curious or interested in what's going on in the world around them. Again, they can't see that connection between themselves and the world around them. So slightly apathetic almost, and mightn't be interested in social relationships or world events. Again, can't see where they fit into this, can't see that within their sense of purpose, so somewhat disconnected. Versus somebody who's strong in commitment will be the opposite, have a really strong sense of purpose in life, know what they want, know how they're going to get there, know what they want to be a part of, know who they want to have in their life, what they want to be doing. They'll be attentive to and in tune with the world around them. And they'll really strive to reach their full potential. Because they're very much aware of what they do want to get from their life and what they want it to look like, they're better able to, as it says there, to strive to reach that potential, to set goals and to work towards and getting what it is they want. If you were looking to develop commitment in yourself as an individual, some things that will be really helpful will be to establish a support system that will help you prevail. Now, whether that's a leader in work who's going to encourage you, who's going to have your back, who's going to help you build that confidence, whether it's a friend, a family member, a partner outside of work, whether they're colleagues in work, but it's that support network that will help you. Also about making a commitment to yourself. Okay, valuing yourself enough to know that you deserve to have a purpose, to get where you want to go in life, and looking in the mirror and saying that to yourself. I think often some of us can be very committed to other people's purposes, other people's agendas, but it's important to recognize and take time to do that for yourself also. To quiet your mind and focus. Now, this one's not so easy in the busy world that we live in, and busyness is something we can all be very consumed with. Everything that's going on, and you're going, but it's really important to take that time to set aside and allow your mind to quiet, focus in on what it is you want, what is your purpose. And then to recognize and appreciate that this process, whatever this process may be, whether it's a particular project in work, whether it's a relationship, whatever it might be, that recognizing that something is going to be challenging. Just take the weight off yourself, allow yourself to feel challenged by it, and be realistic in your expectations of how you deal with it. And lastly, to stay the course, or to stay through to the end, see things through to the end, follow through on your goals. Don't give up. Okay, they're all things that you can do. I'm going to get you to do something right now here that's already going to start developing this one piece in yourself. You're already started, I think, even by being here and by listening into this webinar. You're developing your awareness, your understanding, and you're already increasing your own resilience just by doing that. So let's try do it a little bit further here with our first activity. So this is where I want you to grab your pens and papers or your tablet, your Word document, whatever it might be that you feel comfortable writing on. The very first thing I want you to write is, it is November 14th, 2024. That's exactly 5 years from today. In a couple of seconds, I'm going to ask you to start writing some more, and I'm going to give you 3 minutes to write. And when I tell you to start writing, I'd like you to write consistently for the 3 minutes. Okay? What you're going to write now is personal for each of you. It's not going to be shared with anybody. Nobody else has to read it, so it doesn't matter about grammar, about spelling, about punctuation, about your style of writing just once the words are on the page. Okay, so what I want you to write about is where you see yourself on this date, November 14th, 2024. Okay, think about where you might like to be, who you want to be with, what you'd like to be doing, what you'd like to be known for, what impact you'd like to have on the people around you. Okay, so in a minute, I'm going to ask you to start writing. My last request is that you write in the present tense. Okay, so you're not saying, I will be doing this, I am. I am with, I am doing, I am working. Okay, so I'm going to give you all 3 minutes starting from now. And please remember to keep your pen writing. Keep writing all the time. Even if you can't think of what to write next, you can write, I can't think what to write next. Once that pen keeps moving. Keep on writing. And still keep that pen moving, keep going. Almost there. Keep on writing. Okay, time's up. As some of you might have found that activity quite difficult, and maybe others may have found it quite easy. Some may have found that the 3 minutes felt like an eternity, and you have a page full of, I don't know what to write, I don't know what to write. Maybe some of you are still writing and are finding it hard to stop. It will be different for everybody. This is a super exercise in helping you understand what your personal vision is, or to get more clarity about what your purpose is in life, by understanding where you want to be at this point in the future. And the reason I say about it not mattering about spelling, punctuation, grammar, this is an exercise that you can repeat time and time again. And in fact, the more often you do it, the more helpful it is, because each time you do it, you'll distill down further what exactly that personal vision or that purpose is. And each time you write, you'll get more clarity with it. A little extension of that are some questions that can help clarify your thinking around that. I won't give you time to answer them fully now because we need to keep moving, but you'll see them afterwards. I just want to give you a second to think about them now. What have you done that you're pleased about? What else? There's always more. What else have you done that you're pleased about? What does this tell you about your good qualities and practices? What else? Again, there's always more. I think for many of us, it's almost harder to focus on our strengths and our good qualities than the opposite. So what else? And how might these qualities and practices be useful to you in the future? Okay, these are some questions that you can ask yourself alongside doing this exercise that will help inform your thinking and help you refine and distill that vision and purpose each time you practice it. Do you know what the really cool thing is that your commitment is already developing now. Change is happening all the time, and it's already started as a result of you doing that exercise. I've seen one or two of you they are saying that you like the exercise and you found it helpful. I'm really glad. And as I say, the more you do it, the more you practice it, the greater that clarity of thought will be for you. Okay, so that's looking at developing commitment in ourselves. Now, we've done that exercise here and now with each of you as individuals, but it is something you can do also for others. If you're somebody in a leadership role, it might be something you might like to do with your colleagues, with your peers, with somebody in your team. And it might be around specifically career-wise within the organization. Where would they like to be at a time in the future? Then thinking further out about how else can leaders develop this quality of commitment within their teams around them. So something is to give recognition, awards, praise for accomplishment. I was just with somebody yesterday having a conversation, and a manager said to a person on her team, "Oh, whenever, in telling you about your performance, if I ever hear anything bad or negative feedback, I always pass it on to make sure you learn from it." I said, "What about positive feedback? Does that get passed on?" So really, really important to give recognition. And it can be as big as an annual formal award ceremony for a large organization, or it can be as small as a pat on the back, a well done, good job, something casually said as you're walking past a desk. Then to be visible, spend time with your team and peers. And I think that idea of the leader being behind a closed door in an office is thankfully becoming less and less these days, but it is still present. But spending time with the people that you work with, telling stories, sharing stories, listening to their stories, to help you understand better that the person that each of you are. And then supporting their individual professional development. So for the people on your team or on any team, the level of support available may vary widely depending on the type of organization involved, and whether it's financial support for formal education or whether it's just time out to attend a webinar like this for an hour, whatever it might be or wherever in between. But that, as a leader, you're showing support for your team, for your direct reports, professional development. And then some things that might diminish this skill that we hopefully wouldn't see too much of people doing. One is around not accepting feedback. And feedback is something that it'll come up again and again, even as we talk for the rest of this time. So important. But if a leader isn't accepting feedback from their team, they're diminishing the commitment, because the team, you end up thinking, well, what's the point? I'm less committed to driving forward here because this person isn't accepting feedback. This person doesn't want to change. And then not providing people in your organization with information about the organization's purpose, its mission, its goals. Okay, again, if people that you work with don't know why they're there, what's the point of the work that you're doing? How can they be committed to it? Okay, it sounds really obvious, but sometimes in the day-to-day busyness of work and organizations, it just really is required to take a step back and remember these things and try to make sure that as leaders that we are doing them, or that the leaders in our organizations are doing them. So we'll move on, we'll start to look at our second piece. So the second of the 3 C's associated with resilience and hardiness is control. So having a sense of self-efficacy and the belief that you can influence outcomes in our lives. It's really a strong belief that somebody has the ability to influence what's happening around them and what will happen in their future. and particularly that they're willing to make choices about their life and accept responsibility for those choices. So what it can look like in action in somebody, somebody with a low sense of control may tend to feel powerless or helpless when unexpected things happen. They're really taken aback, knocked sideways, if you like, and can't see how to move forward. They might believe that there's little they can do or anyone in general can do to influence their life outcomes. And they might be fearful about the future and the uncertainty that it holds. I think we could maybe say that all of us are a little uncertain and fearful about the future to some extent, but it might be unnecessarily so in people who are quite low in control. And then conversely, somebody who has a strong sense of control will believe that they can influence the outcomes in their life, and believe that they can manage things that are happening around them, their external environment, even when they're in stressful situations or when change happens. Okay, and crucially, as I said, they're willing to make choices and accept responsibility for those choices. Okay, so there's no helplessness there. There's a sense of personal responsibility and willing to take ownership for choices and actions in your life. Some of the things then we can do to develop this sense of control in ourselves is not to entertain more negativity. And you know, that can be somebody around you who's draining of your energy, but it's somehow trying to keep a lid on it for yourself, that it's not getting into you. It's about developing coping mechanisms, and those coping mechanisms will be different for everybody. You know, what helps me deal with stress might be very different to what helps somebody else deal with stress, but it's knowing what works for you and crucially making sure that you're doing it. And sometimes, you know, people will say, oh, my coping mechanism is going on holidays. I go to Hawaii every January. And that's super great, but you can only go every January. Well, depends on your financial resources and your work commitments and family commitments and whatnot. But really, it's really important to make sure that your coping mechanism is something that's easy to implement and that you can do regularly. About breaking down tasks into manageable chunks. I think a lot of us have probably heard this one in some form or other many times, but reducing the potential for a task to seem overwhelming. Okay, so breaking it down, asking yourself, it mightn't be able to think of tackling the whole thing at once, but what's the first step I can take towards that? What's the very, very first thing I can do? And then maybe after that, what can I do next? Then recognizing what may be causing anxiety. Sometimes when something can cause us to feel a little bit anxious or can bristle us or rub us up the wrong way, it's easy enough to recognize how we're feeling, but to recognize what's causing it can be a different matter. Particularly in a work situation, I think. If something happens that can bristle you, you know, there'll be another email in, there'll be somebody else coming to your desk, there'll be something else to deal with, and you don't have the time maybe just to take a few minutes out to think, what actually happened there, and what was it about that situation or that interaction that caused me to feel this way? Really important thing to do. To create healthy boundaries. Okay, again, whether that's in work and it's somebody coming to your desk, interrupting your work, whether it's a friend who wants to download and bend your ear every evening of the week, it's about finding a way to say, look, I love having conversations with you. I'm not around Monday to Wednesday this week, but I can't wait to talk to you on Thursday evening. But whatever it might be, but to be aware of your boundaries, where you need to create them, and helping yourself to do so. And then last one is the oldest one in the book. We've all heard it a million times. Exercise, movement, healthy body, healthy mind. Okay, so much and all as we know it, sometimes some of us can be a little bit slow to adopt it. But again, it's really just that healthy body, healthy mind. Okay, so what are we going to do for you guys now to help to start to develop your control? What we're going to do is we're going to firstly start thinking about moving from a problem to a platform. Okay, so we're going to do an exercise now in a minute where I'll have you writing again. And it's about reframing a problem in your mind. Okay, so we're moving from focusing on the issue to looking at it in a different way. And I use the word platform here. The meaning is double-fold, really. It can be from moving from a problem to a platform, in that a platform, if you think of a train station, a platform is somewhere from where you're ready to go somewhere. You're ready to go on a journey. You're ready to do something. It can also be around a platform being something that provides stability, that can provide maybe that sense of control if you're faced with an issue or faced with a problem. Okay, so if you can grab your pens, tablets, words, documents, whatever it might be again. Okay, and if you can divide it as per the grid that's shown on this slide here. And on the left-hand side there, I'd like you to write down a problem that you're facing at the moment, or an issue that you have. I'm just going to give you about, we'll say maybe about 10 or 15 seconds for each one on this, just in the interests of time. Okay, then in the middle column, I'd like you to write down, what would you like instead? Okay, so your problem or your issue is the current situation that you're faced with, but what would you like instead? And then in the last column, what benefits would that have for you? If you took a step towards this, towards what you want, how would that benefit you? Now, this may be an activity that needs a lot more time than we have here available to us for during the webinar. But really, it's about building that habit or building that practice of changing how you're looking at a problem. Okay? So positive psychology isn't about ignoring issues or problems or pretending they don't exist. They are there and we need to deal them, but it's about reframing them. Okay, so you have a page here that's divided into thirds, only 1/3 of which has detail on your problem. The other 2/3 is focusing what you would like to see. How would that benefit you? Okay, so you're still addressing the situation, but it's just a different focus. Again, as with the previous exercise, this is something that can be really helpful to do at any time, in any situation, with yourself or with people that you work with colleagues, team members, direct reports. Okay, particularly at a time if somebody is feeling overwhelmed or rendered helpless by an issue they're facing. It's a really great, really simple, but really effective framework just in reframing how people see that problem. And then looking at some other things, that was just one example, but some other things that people can do, that leaders can do to foster this quality of control in the people that they work with. Okay, so ways to build it will be to provide tasks that are challenging, but within employees' capabilities or within people's capabilities to achieve. Okay, so the people are engaged, are challenged, are maybe excited, interested in, but not so difficult that they're going to overwhelm people. And to provide resources and time needed to accomplish goals. Now, those resources might be anything from information, it might be people support, it might be financial support, depending on what's going on, but that you are aware and you're showing that you're aware, that you're making an effort to provide what people need to achieve their goals. And it might be as simple as asking them. Okay. And then how somebody might diminish control slightly. Again, hopefully something we're not going to see too much of, but it can be around assigning too many tasks for the time available. I mean, that's something that we all see, I think, in many different situations. And people are going to feel overwhelmed if they can't manage their workload within the time available. It can be around criticizing or punishing people for a sense of failure. Because again, and somebody mentioned when we looked at definitions and what resilience means to people at the beginning of the session, somebody said modeling behavior. And if you're a leader who's criticizing and punishing workers for their failures, you're showing that you're not willing to see failure as an opportunity to learn. Okay, and you wouldn't be willing to take responsibility for your own failure. And then feedback, again, it came up before and it's coming up again here. If you're not listening to feedback, if a leader isn't listening to feedback, people on their team, their direct reports, their employees will be less likely to give it. And they'll feel less of a sense of control because they think, well, there's no point in me saying anything because it's not being listened to. And it's not saying here that feedback has to be agreed with or taken on board, but at the very least listened to. Okay. I see somebody who's just saying here in the chat box about staying focused and persistent in the pursuit of our goals and objectives. Carl, you're leading us very, very nicely onto the third C there, which is commitment. We're going to come to in a minute. Okay. And before we move into this, somebody else I see has just asked me why my video isn't on with that comment when Irish eyes are smiling. James, we are here in Ireland in the absolute freezing cold. I think it's about to start snowing any minute. And when the weather isn't great here, sometimes our internet connection isn't wonderful. So I really want to make sure that the sound is nice and clear for everybody and that the connection doesn't drop in any way, as it sometimes can when we put the video on. Okay. So as Carla nicely led us on to there, our third point, or the third of the key pillars of resilience and hardiness, is challenge. So seeing change as novelty, as exciting, and as an opportunity to learn and grow. Really, it's an appreciation for variety and change, a motivation to learn and to grow from failures. And it's the tendency to perceive difficult situations as challenges to overcome rather than threats. And then, I suppose, in determining what that looks like in an individual, how it can play out in everyday life. Somebody who's quite low in challenge might see little value in novelty. Okay, so that not recognizing the learning that can come from new experience. Being reluctant to embrace change, as many people often are, but again, may not see the value in change, may not see the opportunity for growth and for learning, or may see failure as a confirmation of personal incompetence. So again, they're externalizing that, or internalizing it, sorry, pardon me, and seeing that failure back to themselves, okay, related to their own personal incompetence. Versus somebody who's high in challenge, with somebody quite the opposite. So we'll embrace change, we'll welcome it, we may even seek it out, be open and curious and willing to try new things. And we'll see failure as a chance to learn and improve. Okay. Then we move into some strategies to help develop this in ourselves. Okay. So one, to become an expert. Okay, learn, and that's the lifelong learning that some people are talking about here in the chat. So hone your craft, learn. So again, when you're faced with novel situations, with new situations, you have the confidence that you have knowledge, you have experience. Be open to continuous learning there. Along that same vein, I don't know that any of us are in situations anymore where we can think we went to college or we did a course and we know what we need to do for our career. Everything is changing all the time, whether it's individual roles within organizations, it's organizations themselves, it's marketplaces, it's economies. I think we all, whether we like it or not, continuous learning, continual professional development is really important. Actively seeking feedback, which comes in again. I feel like we may need to do a whole separate webinar on feedback here and the importance of it. But again, seeking that feedback and using that feedback as an opportunity to learn. Being realistic, okay, in your expectations. Expectations of you, expectations of others around you, of situations will help you to see a positive outcome. Try new things. Whether it's a new food, whether it's a new hobby, things like that, that can be tried maybe in a safer space with less consequences. Then maybe building up to whether those new things may be new tasks, new projects in your role, in your organization. And then recognizing lessons and failure. Okay, failure has something to teach all of us. Even if it's not a nice thing to experience at the time, it's about recognizing the lessons in it, how they can help us and where we can go for there. Okay. Okay, then something to help develop this challenge aspect in you guys now. Some of you, and somebody mentioned it earlier on again when we discussed what resilience means to you with the concept of a growth mindset. For anybody that's unfamiliar with it, this is something that came from the work of a psychologist called Carol Dweck, who is super, super, super. I don't know if any of you guys have ever seen her speak. She was here in Ireland last year and we went to a lecture she gave. And she speaks really about the difference between a fixed mindset where somebody believes, you know, a leopard never changes its spots. I am what I am, and would tend to think I'm this kind of a person and I'm unlikely to change. People with a fixed mindset might say things like, oh, you know, maths isn't my thing. I've never been good with numbers. Things like that. Whereas somebody with a growth mindset will be really all of those things we've just been speaking about, where failure is an opportunity to grow, an opportunity to learn and to do new things. And Carol has done some great work with a variety of different organizations, and she talks, it's so interesting to hear her talk about how important it is. She's a professor of psychology at Stanford, and she now gives the opening speech when students come in on their first day, because she said students used to come into Stanford on their first day and be absolutely terrified, and because they think, my gosh, I'm here because I'm a genius and everybody around me is a genius, but what if I'm not as good as all of these people around me? Because they got into Stanford and this was the way they were thinking. But actually, in her opening addresses with them, she was really saying, look, you're here because you've got potential. You've got something interesting that we think you can share with the world. So it wasn't about you're already a genius and that's it, that's why you're here. It was about the growth and what they have to offer and where they can go from there. This was her name is Carol Dweck, C-A-R-O-L D-W-E-C-K. I see some people are asking in the chat box there. She also did really cool work with a school who hired a new maths teacher. And this maths teacher was somebody akin to Russell Crowe's character in A Beautiful Mind, so a maths genius. And the school were delighted. And they thought, this is great now, our maths results are going to go up a lot. But they didn't. The results didn't change initially, and the school didn't know why. And really, it was because the students were almost so in awe of this maths teacher, they were a little bit afraid to speak their mind and afraid to make suggestions because they thought, well, he might think I'm stupid because I'm not as clever as him. So what Carol suggested and what they started doing was that this maths teacher started making mistakes on purpose as he was writing out equations and that. So as he made mistakes, the students started saying, well, no, hang on, that shouldn't go there and this should go there. And it gave them the confidence to speak up. So I digressed a little bit there, but really, really interesting work from Carol Dweck, for anybody who's particularly interested in this area. Okay, so something to help develop a growth mindset in yourselves. A couple of questions here. I'd like to give you time to answer them and write down the answers, but I think we're almost about to run out of time. Amanda's probably going to pop into me now in a couple of minutes and ask me to shut up. So we'll just quickly go through this. Some questions to think about are, where have you been resilient in the past? What has worked well in the past? What are your character strengths? What are your skills? What other resources do you have? With who do you have strong relationships? Again, this is an exercise that you can repeat at various intervals over time. And what it's going to give you is almost like a resilience bank account that you can draw upon when you're faced with challenging situations. Okay. Again, some actions that leaders can take to help foster challenge in their teams or the people around them. Always emphasizing the value of learning. There's that role model or modeling behavior again. That modeling enjoyment and fun and variety and showing that you believe it's a good thing. Treating failures as a chance to learn. And then diminishing challenge would be restricting innovation and experimentation, making too many rules, making it too difficult for people to think outside the box. Never taking risks yourselves, and blaming others, again, not taking responsibility for your mistakes and failure. So these 3 C's that we've been talking about, commitment, control, and challenge, are the 3 areas that are measured in the Hardiness Resilience Gauge. The HRG is an assessment that's grounded in over 30 years of research and development, and it's super insights into an individual's level of resilience and hardiness, or if used within a group of people, into the various levels of resilience within a team. It's been used with military personnel, students, athletes, law enforcement, business organizations all over the world. And the report that comes with it is really, really practical and really useful. As well as the results from the assessment, it's got strategies for development, it's got an action plan, and a section specifically aimed at leaders so that they can model those behaviors and establish within their teams how stressful situations should be perceived and dealt with. The Hardiness Resilience Gauge is published by our sponsors today, MHS, who've long been established as one of the leading international publishers of scientifically validated assessments. We love working with them because all of their tools are so reliable and valid and supported by research that gives us confidence. Or for any of you listening to who may work in this field, it gives you real confidence in those tools and their ability to affect change in the people you work with and to have a positive outcome for them. There will be some more information on that available from MHS to whoever is listening today after the webinar. So just to finish up today, I'd like to leave final thought for the day is from a man who is probably better placed than any expert in the field to talk about resilience. The greatest glory in living lies not in never failing, but in rising every time we fall. It's a beautiful quote to close on, and I think it's one that captures really well the idea that people with high levels of resilience, it's not that they're invulnerable to stress, but they don't experience the same degree of negative stress-related outcomes as those who have lower levels. Okay, Amanda, I think you're about to jump in, so that's it for today, folks. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy days to listen and interact. I hope you found it useful and helpful. Our contact details are here at kinchlions.com, our website. You'll find information on all of our tools, certifications, how to become certified in the HRG. We're on LinkedIn, Kinch Lions, where psychology means business. There's loads of great articles and blogs, everything on there to do with leadership, business psychology, organizational development. We're starting a new podcast series next week as well with some super guests. So we'd love if some of you could join us for that. I'll be on the line for another 10 minutes or so for any questions that people have. But for anybody logging off, thanks again. And over to you, Amanda, if there's any questions.
Oh, yes, there are. So we'll just jump right into these questions. And I will remind the audience once again that today's event is being recorded and it will be archived on trainingindustry.com. And everyone who is registered will receive a follow-up email from us sometime today that will include a link to both the PDF of the slides and the on-demand recording. So let's jump in. This very first question came from Will. He says, how do you know the difference between being realistic and being overzealous?
Thanks for the question, Will. That's a good one. So there's a difference between realistic and overzealous. I wonder, is this something that you've had personal experience of or where the question came from? But it's a good one. It can be around, a lot of things will contribute to that, Will, whether it may be your own personal experience that you've seen from other people in different situations. And it's really about assessing the environment. There'll be a lot of questions that you'd have to ask yourself within that. It will be tied into, I suppose, your own sense of self, firstly, your self-regard, if you like, and your self-confidence. But it's about marrying that then with, again, the feedback that we keep coming back to, feedback from other people or those other experiences or other situations that you have, that you're able to, you want to be somewhat zealous in the first instance, to have confidence, to have that belief and that control in yourself. But again, it's just marrying that with that other feedback from outside sources, so it's more balanced and more realistic and not just coming from you internally. There's a lot more I could say on it, but I think we leave it at that.
Perfect. Yeah, we've got a ton of questions, and I'd like to for a decent number of them if we can in the next 4 minutes. So this one comes from Sarah. She goes, I'd love to know if you have some ideas on how to gauge resilience, especially at the onboarding stage of new employees.
Okay. Well, the first thing I'd say is potentially the HRG. We had a query from somebody recently about using the HRG as part of a selection tool. So it's something to measure with people even before they start or before they're selected to work with an organization. Or it could be around not even at the selection part of the process, but even as part of the onboarding process. Using a tool like that, again, just to gauge, that will give you a really good, scientifically valid gauge of where an individual is at with the resilience, and then what you might like to do with it as that person's leader, HR, whoever it might be within the organization. Again, not just the assessment itself, but how that really good coaching questions there I could see around how that shows up in your performance in work, what it means for your role within the organization, and how you might like to develop it.
All right, this comes from Val, who mentioned feedback culture, which is a passion of mine, and I was wondering, what would you do to jumpstart a feedback culture that's atrophied? How would you take the first step to get both leadership and individual contributors invested in that change?
Oh, that's a great question. I think often, as with anything to do with organizational culture, Val, I think it needs to come from the top. So if the leaders, depending on the organization in question, can model that behavior and show that they're willing to accept feedback, and not just willing to accept it, but even actively seeking it, is the best place to start for that to filter throughout the organization and to become a culture.
All right, and one last question I'm going to squeeze in here from Cecile, who wants to know, or says, I've read that one of the criticisms for the fixed growth mindset is the either or perception that people have of it. Some people have described it as more of a continuum. Which perspective do you lean towards and why?
Oh, that's an interesting one. I've heard that myself as well. Sorry, I missed the name, Amanda, of the person with that question.
Cecile?
Cecile, thanks for the question. I've heard that criticism myself, Cecile, as well, and we've had discussions how whether it's an either or whether it's a continuum can be very dependent on the situation that you find yourself in. I think, and maybe this is something more from personal experience than professional expertise, I'm answering this in terms of myself and the people around me, the people I work with and my friends and family. I think it tends to be more of a continuum in situations that an individual is more familiar with, or has more confidence in, maybe has more resilience in, looking at the 3 C's that we've been talking about, but can tend to be more of an either or in situations or scenarios within which people feel less familiar.
All right. Well, oh man, I really love hosting MHS-sponsored events because we always have super awesome and dynamic speakers, and today was no different, Tanya. Everyone is giving lots of kudos and thanks in the chat. For those of you who we didn't follow up on your questions or have time today, something tells me that Tanya's team, the MHS team, is going to be reaching out to make sure you get all of your questions answered. But really, Tanya, I really appreciate you being here and taking some time out of what I'm assuming is later in your day to be here with us and share all of this really great content with our audience.
You're very welcome, Amanda. Thank you for the opportunity. And yeah, anybody else who wants to get in touch, had questions that we didn't get to answer, my email is there. We'd love to hear from you. Please get in touch, and thank you again.
Awesome. If you'd like to check us out for more upcoming events, trainingindustry.com/webinars. Of course, all of our events do qualify you for 1 credit hour from SHRM, ISPI, and CPTM. What's CPTM? It's the Certified Professional and Training Management Program. If you're looking to up your personal and professional game by linking your learning initiatives to your organizational goals, this is the program for you. You can join us for any of our intercontinental practicums, or you can get involved virtually from anywhere in the world. Of course, our next conference, in-person training industry conference and expo, is happening June of 2020. More information coming soon. You can check out type2019.com for more information. One last time, thank you so much to Tanya for being here for our event, and of course to MHS for sponsoring, and to all of you for attending. Until we see you back here next time, enjoy it out there.